Salman Rushdie published The Satanic Verses in 1988, and the book immediately caused a global furor. For example, the Ayatollah Ruhollah Khomeini in Iran, the same Ayatollah that had instigated the American hostage crisis a decade earlier, declared the book was blasphemous. He issued a fatwa commanding all faithful Muslims to hunt down Rushdie and kill him. It's possible that a clunky translation of the title might have made things worse than they would have been. Satanic Verses was translated in such a way that a casual reading in Arabic would have implied, quote, the Satanic Koran, end quote. That was not Rushdie's intent. But still in all, a few Muslims rose to the Ayatollah's call. The 1970s singer and songwriter Cat Stevens, for example, had recently converted to Islam, and he read the fatwa to the Western press, along with the appropriate verses from the Koran, to try to explain why it was that Rushdie had to die. Rushdie himself had to live under protection for a year, but he said that no one had ever actually threatened him, and over time he described the fatwa as more of a publicity stunt than a real danger. In the years since, he's published successfully and has served as a mentor to other Indian writers, and he was knighted by England in 2007. The novel caused such a stir because it revolves around a certain aspect or certain event in the composition of the Koran. Muhammad wrote the Koran in the early 600s by repeatedly entering into a trance and listening to Gabriel, an angel of God, recite to him. Today, Muslims believe that the Koran is Allah's exact words as communicated through their prophet Muhammad. But in the early years of Muhammad's preaching, most people thought he was insane. Few people took his mystical claims seriously, and he was estranged from his community. At one point, in his attempts to attract attention to his new religion, Muhammad heard his angel say this, quote, "Have ye thought upon Al-Lat and Al-Uzza and Manat, the third, the other? These are the exalted cranes whose intercession is to be hoped for." Now, Al-Lat, Al-Uzza, and Manat were three goddesses who took the form of water cranes from the pagan religion that was practiced by the regular people in Mecca around Muhammad while he was having his conversations with Gabriel. This passage, as I just read it to you, would have meant that these three goddesses had a special place in Allah's heaven, and that praying to these goddesses would increase your chances of a favorable hearing before Allah himself. Now, since Muhammad was preaching that there was only one God, Allah, and that there was no other God besides Allah, this passage is a huge diversion from the core teachings of Islam. Suddenly, there are three other deities to pray to, water crane deities no less. And not only are they divine, they're female. Muhammad immediately recognized the profound problems with this passage, and so he changed it to this, quote, "Have ye thought upon Al-Lat and Al-Uzza and Manat, the third, the other? Are yours males and his the females? That indeed was an unfair division." Now, he changed the last two lines. What they mean now is that it's absurd to think about silly goddesses or multitudes of deities, because that's logically impossible. There's only one Allah, and also, besides, men are superior to women, and so those old superstitions about water cranes have got to be set aside. Here's the interesting part. Later on, Muhammad claimed that Satan caused him to get the second two lines of this verse wrong. Early Islamic scholars referred to those lines as the bird verses. Later, Western scholars called them the satanic verses. Rushdie's crime was to suggest that Muhammad put those verses in there himself in an attempt to sell his religion to his contemporaries. Maybe, if the common people could hold on to a few of their superstitions and their goddesses, well, then maybe they'd be more inclined to go ahead and worship Allah as well. This, of course, is an insulting thing to say about a prophet who is supposed to be writing down the exact words of God. The novel itself, however, is a fascinating meditation on the nature of good and evil, and especially on our ability, or perhaps our lack of the ability, to tell the two apart.